I personally am witness to many positive and responsible individuals who are Palestinian, who live in the occupied areas, and also others I've become aware of that live in Israel, and others who are exiled, who to me represent an intelligent and responsible leadership for the Palestinian people. I would hope that responsible parties, responsible leadership in the Muslim world with resources would provide economic support to that body of leaders so that they can impress upon the world in a more effective way the struggle of the Palestinian people and be established in the international world as the legitimate Palestinian leadership. Now, that's not to say that those elected representatives in the Palestinian Authority, that there aren't among them very, very fine people, outstanding leaders. But in the course of a people's life, you know, an illegitimate group can hijack the whole life of the people. We're witnesses to that. We know about that. And our community in America is a study in that issue and concern. We're struggling with that as well. What we have to do, what is our responsibility in this, is to identify in and with persons who have the proper understanding and expression, and to give our voice of support to them as in their legitimacy, to acknowledge them in their legitimacy. And we can raise their names and encourage them and bring attention to their works, their comments, their thinking, promote that in the interest of addressing the condition of the Palestinian determination and the Palestinian people. I think that's the responsible way. We have to be respectful of the choice of the people. We have to respect their choices. But at the same time, we have to make sure that the choices are informed. There's no way that we can accept that an informed Palestinian population would support the decision of Hamas, that Hamas, in its extreme side of its leadership, has been given or enjoys the support of the Palestinian people. No possible way we can come to that conclusion. Not knowing what we know of the Palestinians as a moral people, a people devoted to faith and the dignity of faith and the identity of Muslim life, and identifying with the sacred shrine established in Islamic life and identity, the Masjid al-Aqsa, a people identifying with it, knowing its importance, knowing its reference and centrality for understanding of Islamic discipline and Islamic knowledge in the tradition of Muhammad the Prophet? Are people identifying with that, seeing themselves as the custodians of that? They would not choose this leadership, Hamas leadership, to be their leaders. So we have to consider that the leadership has been manipulated, and that something has been working and imposed upon this population by way of scheme, artifice, you know. And this is not something that we should be confused about, because we're going through a period our own self where similar things are taking place right now. So I think that our responsibility is to identify within the Palestinian community those voices that we know are truly reflective of the spirit of the people and the spirit of their determination, and to give our support to them, and to bring what they're saying to the attention of those that we can influence. And that will be a factor for, I think, an important factor for improving their representation in the world. I also think that we have to make ourselves available to them, that we are prepared to be advocates for them in these sacred interests, in these sacred human interests. And that's why it was necessary for me, as a person understanding myself to be a responsible representative of our life, to speak a word of correction to those imams that traveled to Israel recently. And I know that they don't particularly care for me, and they don't like what I said, but a word of correction has to be spoken, that you cannot be characterized in the context of the brutality of the Israeli regime, even if you have good intent. You have to think in terms of how your activity is going to be viewed and how it's going to be manipulated. You have to use wisdom, and you have to associate yourself with your better traditions. Take your own self-importance out of the equation and look at the responsibility that you have in representing a whole people. Consult with the best of the people. Consult with those who are expressing the best understanding. And you will be a factor for making the honorable contribution that you intend. But when you don't do that, you're cannon fodder. You disgrace yourself, and you disgrace the people you say that you represent. So it was necessary for us to speak a word of correction to them in a public way, that their actions do not reflect the spirit of this people, and it does not reflect the spirit of our late leader, who was the guest of the Palestinian Authority, visited them in the occupied territories, was hosted by the late leader of the Palestinian people, Yasser Arafat. And Imam W. Muhammad, he said that his visit to Palestine and the reception of the Palestinians was warmer than his visit to any other Muslim majority society that he ever visited. It was the most loving and sincere reception of him. Also, Imam W. Muhammad visited Israel at the invitation of an international interfaith body. So we have in Imam W.D. Muhammad the necessary moral balance where you are not disassociated from whatever decent, observable, moral movement in the life of a people, that you're not separated from that, and that you have the capacity also to have audience with members in the society that is charged with oppressive rule. That, you know, within the Israeli leadership, there's also moral conscience. And that we have to, by virtue of the example that Imam W. Muhammad provided, we have to be prepared as part of our commitment to what is right to acknowledge that. So the spokespersons of the Israeli government are not always the best representation, and I would say is not the best representation of the sentiments of the Israeli people. And Imam W. Muhammad displayed that by answering the invitation of an interfaith group in Israel. But what you did not see in him was an absence of moral vision. Imam W. Muhammad thought carefully about how he should be seen and how he is perceived on behalf of the dignity of his own people and on behalf of that people's commitment to the Palestinian determination. So it's a heavy responsibility, and it's not something that can be upheld by just one person. It has to be supported by many voices with many areas of interest, and it has to be acknowledged and supported by persons with well-established, well-known, and respected moral interests. So in the months ahead, weeks and months ahead, and years ahead, I would expect that there'll be a open and clear expression of solidarity and also relationship between us and the Palestinian leadership, the new Palestinian leadership.